Hey, gorgeous friends, let's talk about the secret recipe for long lasting healing. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you some beliefs and some things that you'll want to make sure that you do as an energy healer in order to really create those beautiful, lasting healings with your clients. And I say with because I come from the mindset that you are working in a co collaboration with the client and that you're not doing anything for them. Okay. So let's talk about today some of these beliefs and ways of being and ways of showing up in your sessions that are going to be really those secret ingredients that create these incredible outcomes for you and your clients. So let's first talk a little bit about beliefs. Our beliefs largely create our experience. We can be a super high vibrational being, but if we have a belief that's counter to something that we want, it really is hard for that thing to come in. So, as an energy healing practitioner, we have to be constantly looking at our beliefs and double checking with our outer world to see what's showing up in our outer world to make sure that our beliefs are setting a foundation for us to be able to experience that level of reality. And so, the first belief that you really must have as an energy healing practitioner is that you must believe it's possible. If you don't believe something is possible, you're imprinting your consciousness onto our reality. And that creates a situation where it becomes very hard for something to take place. So, I want to talk about this a little bit when it comes to very practical aspects of healing. Let's say you have a client come in and they've got stage 4 cancer. If there's a part of you that doesn't believe it's possible to heal from stage 4 cancer, then it's going to be really difficult to help this client create their outcome. But if you believe, like I do, in the power of infinite possibilities and instantaneous healing and rapid healing, then you can tap into that energy stream. And in doing so, you help your client then tap into that possibility zone as well, where they can uplift their current belief structure into seeing that something is possible for them. I was just watching a video the other day about a man who was injured in an accident and was a quadriplegic, and he believed that he could walk again. And so what happened was he was able to walk again when any other person who believed that they couldn't walk, that were told you'll never use your arms and legs again, who just sort of submitted to the outcome, he wouldn't have done the hard work of teaching his body how to heal itself. So there's a couple of different thoughts about healing that are out in the world. And so I want to talk you through this because when you're holding the belief that the healing is possible, it's difficult to also hold the feeling or the thought pattern of surrender, but you also have to surrender. So let's talk about this. Let's say that this person was in a significant accident. There are some schools of thought that would say you have to surrender to the experience. You have to deeply just let it be and let it take you over. And I would say that yes, you want to let your client surrender to the experience and invite a portal of possibility for them to step up into where they are not that, where they are not that quadriplegic, where they are able to use their body again and really opening that space up for them. And I call it the portal of possibilities. It's those infinite possibilities because truly in our world, it's not just one linear reality stream, it's all of these billions and billions and billions of different possibilities that we can attune ourselves to at any moment. And it really happens with choice points. So, in this example of somebody has a horrible accident, they're a quadriplegic all of a sudden, they have a choice point where they say, I actually am not going to fully surrender to this. I'm going to be in this experience and I'm going to do everything I can to get the function of my body back. And so it requires that opening up and that holding of the possibilities that it's possible while still surrendering to the experience, but not surrendering to the outcome that's possibly in the field for them, if that makes sense. So you can surrender to the experience, but you don't have to surrender to the outcome. Okay. Same thing, stage 4 cancer person. They can surrender to the experience and say, I'm serving myself up for the universe to work through me and to do my highest possible timeline. And I don't have to surrender to the outcome of this is fatal for me, right? So it's a very yes and energy. It's a holding that surrender, but also creating those higher possibilities of potential. And it ultimately is about you, the practitioner, believing that it's possible for the client. Now, I also want to say, due to the nature of psychic information, you might see something for this client who you can see where it's not really in their outcomes to be cancer free or walking again. And I'm using extreme examples because everyone can get these. So you might see that and be like, oh, wow, I can see that it's highly unlikely for them in their current energetic that that's the outcome that they're going to have. But what we have to remember is that people always have these choice points. And even if somebody is, on death's door, take Anita Morjani, for example. She's a fabulous example of this. She was on death's door. Her physical body was getting ready to let go. And in fact, she did die. And then on the other side, she realized, oh, I'm going to come back. And so Billy Crystal says this best in the movie The Princess Bride. Even if you're only mostly dead, you can still have a chance to come back. And so I always remember that, even though it's from a movie, it's true. Even if somebody's mostly dead, if they're not all dead and aren't, buried in the ground or body cremated, their body has a chance to regenerate itself and come back into a new version of itself. So we have to just keep that in mind and believe that it's possible for them in order to help them and train to and sort of snap to that energy. The next thing that we have to do in a session is that we have to basically get out of our egos and get out of our head and allow the healing of the universe to come through us. So it can be tempting to think that you're the one performing the healing and that you're the one doing it or making somebody better. And the more you can just allow yourself to step out of the way and allow that healing energy to flow through you, the better the outcomes will be. And I like to actually start my energy sessions with a couple of command statements. And I'll literally say something like, I now ask my ego and Alyssa to step aside and for my higher self and for divine source energy to flow to me and through me. I now command the frequency of instantaneous healing to flow to me and through me. And so I'm stepping Alyssa aside. I'm stepping my ego aside in my mind, and I'm allowing that energy to flow through me and to me so that it gets directed towards the client. And the more you can work with that and really release any attachment you have to being the one that heals somebody or the one, that the healing comes through, and just really working with that healing energy and letting it flow through you, the better outcomes you will have. I had a coach once tell me and a mentor tell me, if you take responsibility for their successes, you also have to take responsibility for their failures. So just practicing the command statement that I shared is going to help your mind get out of the way. Again, you can just simply say, I now command that my ego and my mind step aside and divine source energy, divine healing energy flow to me and through me. And it's really as simple as that. And then go ahead and start your session. I touched on this a little bit already, but you simply must let go of outcomes, time frames, and any attachments to how healing will look for your client. So we might be very attached to somebody having an instantaneous healing when they might need more time to seal in some behaviors. Let's say you have somebody who is a smoker and they instantaneously let go of cigarettes overnight. Well, that's great, but they might not have learned ways to self soothe their nervous system and self soothe the anxiety and depression, likely, that turned them to drugs and nicotine as a drug in the first place, and the habitual habit of soothing themselves through smoking. So they might not get to learn that piece, and they might very well turn to some other addiction. So while we want to have those instantaneous healings, sometimes it's not appropriate for the client. And you'll sort of know, you'll start to ask and check in, like, can this client receive instantaneous healing? Is it in their highest good? And really just letting go of however the healing happens for your clients, letting go of any need to force a healing. So, for example, you might be working with a client who's chronically ill, and you can see that, of course, they have the potential to heal instantly, but you can also see that they're likely going to need more time with this. So just opening up that spaciousness in your mind and keeping visioning them, which we'll talk about in a minute, in the healed space, but not forcing it. And you'll know this energetically when you tune in and you're visioning the client as healed from whatever it is that they're working on. You'll feel a sense of it snapping into the grid, meaning you can feel their energy snap to the template you're holding for them. Okay. So it's like your client's over here and you're holding an image of them as healed over here. And in the energy field, you either feel them go, oh, yeah, that's it. I'm aligning to that. Or in the energy field, you'll feel them or see them possibly over here with resistance, not lining up with where you're seeing them. And so, if that's the case, if you're feeling, sensing, seeing, or just knowing that the client is not what I call snapping to the grid, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit in our next video about holograms. But if they're not snapping to the grid that you're holding for them, that's okay. And you've got to let go of the outcome. You've got to let go of attachment to them doing so. And also know that there's some more trauma healing work for them to be done, because at present moment, they're not able to snap to the grid. They're not ready. And what I've learned over the years of healing is not everybody's ready on the same time frame. Some people move really fast and some people move really slow. We all have access to the same stuff, but certain people's energy systems aren't built to go for speed, just like the tortoise and the hare. They're both going to get there, but the tortoise isn't built for speed, whereas the rabbit is. And if we try to get the tortoise to move at the speed of the rabbit, well, it's just not going to be able to do it. It's not a fair expectation. So for you, really knowing how your client's wired is very helpful to see, do they need more time with something to get to that outcome of which you're holding them in. Your role is to not let go of the image that you're holding them in, but not force feed their energy over there. So what that can look like is in your energy healing session, if you got your eyes closed down and you can tell they're not coming over to snapping to your grid of your reality picture, not forcing it, letting it go, and just directing the client to fill up on light and do that sort of healing work, but not forcing them over to the way you're seeing things. So let's talk about how we really help the clients into a new healing picture for themselves. The thing that I like to do is I like to do what I call snapping them to the grid. So if you think about realities as all our little realities are overlaid one on top of the other, all commingled and mashed, and there's this grid of information that each one of us projects out from inside. Okay. And so as a healer, your grid can be quite strong, and you can affect how other people are based on your grid system that you're projecting out in front of you. You can see this happen in group mentalities. Somebody walks into a group meeting and they're angry, and you can feel the whole energy of the group change. You can see this in big coliseums when all of a sudden music is played or a fight breaks out. The whole energy of the place changes. In fact, we've all heard those kind of horror stories of a stampede happening, both with animals and human beings. So the grid energy that you're holding is very powerful, and you have the ability to take a human being and snap them to your grid. So as a healer, what this means is you have somebody who, let's say they're working on healing their IBS. In your grid system, your projection, you are making a picture of them in your mind, and you're seeing them as whole, healed, complete, not having this issue anymore. And what happens when you open up the possibility and you see them as that, they can then snap over to your grid. They can snap into that possibility. And you, as the healer, that's part of your role, is to see them as healed. Now, you don't have to talk about that. You don't have to say, I'm now seeing you as healed, but you are having to do it in your mind's eye, and doing it while you're in a state of deep energy healing work is paramount. Like if you try to do it in your beta state while you're walking around, it's not effective. But if you do it in alpha or theta brainwave states, when you're relaxed, when you're working with the energy field, it's very effective. And that person can quickly snap to your grid if it's highly appropriate for them. It might not be. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in this next tip here. But your goal with snapping people to the grid is to offer up the possibility portal for them to be in this healed state. Okay. And then it's up to the client to snap themselves to that grid. Now, they might put up a little fuss, they might not be ready, and that's okay. But as a healer, you must see your client in the state of healed and whole. Now, if for some reason you can't see them in that state, a couple of things are likely happening. One thing is that they're probably not ready or equipped to move into that state, and they're probably having a lot of resistance about this. And something else is that you might have to address your belief structure of, is this possible for them? It also might be that you're not in an alpha or a theta brainwave state, which is where we really want to be working as a healer. We really want to be relaxed, no caffeine in our system, no drugs or alcohol. Usually eyes closed is a great way to be, so that we can drop in to universal consciousness and connect in with that matrix of life, our divine templates, and start to rearrange the field. We can start to rearrange our grid of energy that we're projecting and hold somebody at a higher state of being. And, we've all seen this in the classroom. I make this analogy all the time. You've got a bunch of rotten kids, and the teacher's just like, oh, these kids are awful and they're no good and they can't learn. And then the substitute teacher comes in, and all of a sudden the whole class is geniuses all of a sudden. It's because the teacher has a different grid structure. They believe in these kids. They see their highest potential. They're not seeing what's going on with them in terms of all the bad stuff. So for you as the healer, a really important key here is to, in your mind, minimize what you're noticing that's not working for the client, to minimize what you're seeing their problems are, and to maximize how you're seeing them in that whole place. Yes, as a healer, we do work on blocks, but as we're working on blocks, part of the work that you're doing is you're seeing this block transform, you're seeing this block move out, you're seeing this block disappear, and you're doing that visualization work. And even in this module, we'll learn about how to work with the holograms. So, a little spoiler alert here, maybe somebody has that block in their heart and you're having them do the tapping that you've already learned. Meanwhile, you're going into their heart space and you're seeing this block clear out. You might even take your hands and start to scoop out the block and start to work energetically and seeing it open up. Your energy plus the client's work is going to help this really transform very quickly. That's why divine light energy healing sessions are so powerful, because it's both you and your client working together. And whenever you have two people in agreement to something, that's when the magic happens. So for you, though, you have to be in agreement that yes, this client can heal. Yes, you can see them in a whole healed state and hold them as that while they're trying to snap over to your grid. And it's okay if it takes some time. It's okay if they're resistant, but your main job is to see them as whole no matter what, no matter if they are just putting up a big fight about it. And some clients will. Some clients really want to be in victim state. They're not ready yet to release that. They're not ready yet to step up and be the powerful creator of their life. And they're still working through a lot. However, the more you hold your power with that client and you really hold them to a higher standard that takes them out of victim mode and into empowerment mode, by seeing them in a different state, but also challenging them on those beliefs of their own that they might be holding, that, healing's not possible, or maybe how they're showing up in the world, the more you can sort of pick at the knot of some of those beliefs and untangle them, whilst helping them to clear out those blocks and see it in a higher state, that's really when the magic starts to happen. Okay, and the last really important ingredient for amazing client healing outcomes is you must empower your client to take responsibility for themselves. There's a beautiful energy modality called Reiki. There's other energy healing modalities out there, and I love these healing modalities, except for one thing. They don't empower the client to take responsibility to do their own healing work. And so one of the things that I learned on the other side is that taking responsibility is that critical ingredient in order to create that lasting healing, that healing that just is rock solid. Because when the client takes responsibility, they get out of what I call healer hopper modes. And you can kind of instantly get a sense of that client who's just hopping from healer to healer to healer, looking for the next thing that's going to heal them and all of that. When they show up in your world and you make the invitation for them to take responsibility for their healing, everything transforms. Now, you don't necessarily need to say this out loud. You don't need to say, I need you to take responsibility for your healing. What you do instead is you're holding a deep energetic of, this client is going to be responsible for their healing. I'm not taking responsibility for their healing. I'm not the one healing them. It's them who's going to snap themselves to the grid of healed that I'm seeing them at. So they're responsible for snapping themselves to this grid. I'm going to be over here. I'm going to be holding space. I'm going to be doing some techniques, all for them to make an agreement of yes to come over and snap to the grid where they are in their healthiest state, their happiest state, their most abundant state, their most joyful state. They have to make the agreement yes. And that's because life is about agreements. Whatever we are agreeing to is what we're getting. So your agreement that you can make with yourself right now is that you get to empower these clients. You get to hold that frequency of them being empowered, but that also means that you can't accidentally take their power away. So if clients are constantly reaching out to you saying, well, what should I do about this? Or, tell me what to do here. That if you're feeding into that energy and constantly telling them what to do, or telling them here's what to do, um, clinically speaking, even, it's at some level disempowering their energy. And yes, while you might be a clinician, while you might have a protocol, there's something very powerful alchemically that happens for clients when we say, here's the protocol I'm recommending, and I'd love to know intuitively, what do you feel like is the most important first step for you? Because we have to remember, as a practitioner, we might very well know our protocol. We might just have it down pat. But we also have to remember there's a unique wisdom located deep inside the body, and it's different for every person. And if we bypass that step, if we bypass the step of not consulting their deep body's wisdom, on some level, we are disempowering them. And on some level, when our protocol doesn't work, they are going to come back to us and be like, see, your protocol didn't work. Whereas if you are involving them in the process and asking their intuition to get involved, even if they don't know jack diddly squat about your protocol or what it means, they'll get a hit on something. And it's up to you as a practitioner to guide them into asking them, is that for your highest good? So, for example, let's say that you have a client who's doing a brand new protocol about something, and they pick something that you're almost 100% positive this is not for their highest good. You've shared your protocol with them, and you've asked them what intuitively did they feel like their first step might be, and they pick something that's just totally off base. Your role would then be to ask them, can you check in with your body? Does that feel like it's for your highest good? Like, how are you feeling in your body? How are you feeling in your heart? Are you feeling a yes? Are you feeling a heaviness? Are you feeling a lightness? And really start to get that client in tune with their body, which, by the way, is going to require you to get in tune with your body, with your nervous system. Your ultimate goal is to feel with your body where your client is out of tune. Just like a great musician can hear with their ears where other instruments are out of tune. I take ukulele classes every Tuesday night, and our instructor, Chris, can have us each strum our ukulele, and he just knows instantly that's out of tune, and then he'll come over and tune it real fast without a measurement to tune it. He'll just know exactly where to put it instantly. And so as a healing practitioner, that's really your role, is to feel where your client is out of tune, and then to help them tune in to their highest good, help them feel what that feels like in their physical body. And once again, that's all about empowering your client. And I promise you that when you empower your client, it will be amazing for them. Their whole lives will start to change. And it takes a lot of pressure off you for having to be the one to heal them. And you also might have to, at times, stand up and step in when they are acting as a victim, because many people want to go into victim role. They want to go into their story. This happened to me. They did this to me. Why is this happening to me? And whenever you hear those things, you know automatically that your client is in victim mode. So it's your opportunity to invite them back to your grid. And my grid is that everything on the outside of us, at some level, we are projecting. It's in our reality because we are in resonance with it. So if we don't like something that's happening in our world, we've got to go inward and take a look at what's going on with inside of me that's creating this experience on the outside, and really taking a look at what that could be, And then when you do that level of deep work and are inviting your clients into that work of, okay, I'm having this experience. My husband's just being a jerk every night when he comes home from work. I don't like that. Okay, great. So it's not about victim blaming, but it is about like what could be going on within me that I would keep seeing this in my reality? What might be the programs that I need to work on in order to possibly shift it? Maybe you can't shift it, but it's been my experience that almost 99.9 times out of 100, when you go deep within and do the inner alchemical work and take responsibility through empowerment for what's showing up in your world actually changes. So this is what can happen with clients. And it really is sometimes, if you've got a client deep in victim mode, it's sometimes very difficult to call them forward, because let's face it, as coaches, most of us are doing this work because we want to see people get outcomes and we love helping people. And that part of loving helping people, there's a people pleasing aspect of that. So you really have to be onto yourself and see what's showing up for you in the container each session, and really ask yourself, am I willing to have the tough conversations with a client? Am I willing to ask the tough questions? Am I willing to call them forward into a newer version of themselves? And that's not always the easy conversations, but sometimes and why I like divine light energy healing so much is you can pose it as questions to them. You can say, what is it that you feel is going on with you? Like, when did you first notice this, and where are you feeling that in your body? And that starts to bring up stuff that you can then heal and clear. And at the end of the day, you are creating an empowered human being who is going to really know how to do this work for themselves. I mean, my ultimate goal with this academy, and even with you as a healer, is that you empower your clients so much that they know how to do this work themselves. Something comes up in their life and they can start to work on their own energy. They can start to tap it through. Yeah, they may need a little assistance from time to time, but hopefully they're feeling, after a period of time of working with you, that they can do this on their own. So the goal isn't for you to have these clients for years and years and years, that they're coming to you to heal their stuff and heal their chakras and heal their past lives and all of that. The goal is really to empower them to do this work themselves. Now, we're going to talk about this a little bit more in powerful client sessions, but I wanted to talk about this now too, is what I think is a must do. It's a must ingredient, is you really must have an inner and outer healing office space. Okay. So, and that's why I chose to do these videos here. You can see this is my office space behind me. I've got my crystal bowls. I've got some beautiful flowers. I've got lights that I can kind of make any color that I want to. I've got crystals around, I've got fresh flowers, and it's what I call my healing vortex. Up here on the wall, I've got some sacred geometry and crystals and all of that. And for me, what I like to do, and again, we're going to walk you through this in powerful client sessions, but I like to set up a pyramid structure in my home that's in my mind, but it's in my home. And I personally like to work with the Syrians. It's an alien team that's very amazing at healing. You might like to work with the angels. You might like to work with unicorns. You might like to work with the Arcturians. You might like to work with something else entirely, whales, dolphins, whatever you want to work with. Inviting those energies to be inside this office space and to come into your vortex physically, so that when the client gets into the Zoom room with you, that they feel a palpable feeling of healing, that they can sense it so much, like, oh, this is a healing space for me. Setting in the frequencies of safety. First and foremost, people need to feel safe in order to heal. So safety, infusing it with love and healing energies and any other energies that you like to work with. There's no right or wrong to it. If you want to fill your space with unicorns and fairies, that's fine. And if you want to fill your space with angels, that's great too. I tend to work a lot with angels, a lot with unicorns, and a lot with other advanced civilizations that are great with healing. How you invite those civilizations and things in, I think of it like calling a phone number. How do you call your best friend? Well, you dial her phone number or his phone number, and you get your best friend. You don't get Joe down the street. You get your best friend when you dial your best friend's phone number. So if you wanted to work with the angels, you might start imagining the particular angels that you like to work with. If you wanted to work with unicorns, you might imagine the unicorns that you wanted to work with. If you are working with, for example, the Syrians, I tend to, there's the pyramid structure a lot in Syrian, and I see whales and dolphins with them. So I imagine a pyramid with whales and dolphins, and I invite that energy in. You could start imagining angel wings. So, however that looks for you, if you want to work with the dragons, you could imagine a beautiful dragon in your mind's eye. So, just inviting that energy into your healing space. So, it's literally you've set the intention for healing in your physical space, and you feel pretty good about how it looks. Like you're good. You've got some crystals. You've got some supportive things that make you feel when you go into that space. You can think, yes, this feels peaceful to me. I feel good here. And that's really what you want. Ideally, you don't have to spend a lot of money, but what I do recommend is that you keep it very clean, free of dust. When you clean, you set your intention to clear out any energies, and you just infuse it with love and blessings. Then you also want to set your mental healing space. In your mind, you want to be calm, relaxed. As I mentioned before, you want to be caffeine free, alcohol free, drug free. If you have to take even a cold medicine, I recommend canceling sessions for at least 24 hours because it really messes with your channel and your clarity and your ability to do the deep healing work. You want to prepare your mental space. I like to use soothing music about 10 minutes before a session to kind of really get me into the zone of healing, get my nervous system relaxed, and really setting my mind. I'll fill my mind with a lot of healing elements like dolphins and flowers and beautiful things. And I'll just visualize that and imagine that and really setting forth the energy that I'm creating a visible healing space and also a mental healing space where this client is going to be held in this beautiful container of love so that if it's aligned for them, they can snap to the grid of their highest good and their highest levels of healing.